Alright, hey there, Owen here, and I'm going to be doing my poem analysis. The poem I'm doing is Education for Leisure by Callahan, and I'm going to go through the whole soapstone stiff anagram, I think that's called, with you guys, and just go over all the different parts of this poem and sort of you can analyze it along with me. Start off, we have to find the speaker of the poem. And I think the speaker, at least I would have to say, is, well, first a person. It's not an idea or an animal or something like that. And also, I feel like they're youthful. There isn't actually a lot of information in this pertaining as to how they're youthful, but I think just through the way that they speak, you know, the words they use, the diction, things like that, it makes the person seem like a young person, and also the actions they're committing. I mean, it doesn't seem like something that a bored adult would do, go out and just kill things. Next is the occasion, which is those killing of things. The murdering of the fly, the fish, the budgie, or the bird, because it's England, and they say bird's weird. I don't know why. He also talks about how the cat is afraid of him. I notice, you might notice I'm saying he. I don't mean to do that. That's just like my sexist brain. But really, we don't know if it's a boy or a girl, this speaker. As for the audience, I'm gonna get really deep here, guys, because I'm gonna say it's individualistic society is the audience. And I'll get onto that later, like sort of explain why I think it's that. But right now I'll just say individualistic society. And the purpose, I feel that the purpose of this poem is a satire on the way people act in modern society, especially Western society, you know, sort of, I'm the most important thing in the world, everyone should know about me, should know what I'm feeling, should feel the same way that I do. Like we're all bright little, I couldn't think of a metaphor. The subject, like the same sort of thing. Uniqueness, I guess, would be the word that I'm looking for. So like the uniqueness that a person feels. The tone of the poem, it's very blunt and sarcastic, I feel. And I don't know if that's just because Caroline Duffy is British, and I mean British people are just blunt and sarcastic to begin with. The parts especially where it says, I am a genius, those are lines 9 and 12. Also, they're very choppy sentences. The longest sentence in here would be, it was in another language and now the fly is in another language. But everything else, 4 or 5 words each per sentence. And some of them are even one-word sentences, like in line 6, Shakespeare. As for the title is Education for Leisure, as a British person would say it. It's a very British interpretation. I think the theme that the poem is trying to convey is sort of, well, like a hyperbole or an exaggeration of people in individualistic societies like act and feel, with them talking about how they're a genius and talking about how they're going to change the world. When they're cut off by the radio DJ in lines 17, 18, and 19, finally the only thing they can come up with to like solve that problem is go out and kill someone. So the title is Education for Leisure, as a British person would say it. And what I think the title sort of represents is it's kind of ironic, education for leisure, because it doesn't seem like they care at all about education, based on what they're doing. It just sort of seems like mindless violence, but at the same time, that is their leisure. I'll be honest, I didn't have a lot for this title. I couldn't quite think of a lot, you know. But we'll see, we'll find out. Maybe somebody else will explain it. I don't know. So next, we'll get into some imagery, which throughout the entire poem, it's only 20 lines long, But there's only really one good example of imagery throughout the entire thing, and that would be visual imagery in the final line, number 20, where it says, "The pavements glitter suddenly." That's about it throughout the entire poem. There isn't a lot of other imagery through there. I mean, it could be argued that I squashed the fly against the window. That could be tactile imagery. And I breathe out talent, which could also be tactile. You sort of feel the breath. And then for figurative language, there's a metaphor in line 4, which is boredom stirring in the streets, which is personifying boredom, like making it seem almost like a loitering person, you know, like somebody just standing out in the street with nothing to do, like kicking rocks or throwing sticks, or kicking sticks and throwing rocks. And that's really all I have to say about the soapstone stiff along those sort of lines, but I do have some other things to say about the poem. So I had underlined some phrases and words that I thought were interesting. The first thing that I haven't talked about already that stands out to me would be line 6 and 7, where it says, "Shakespeare, it was in another language, and now the fly is in another language." As for the other language, the way I see it is another language would sort of mean another time, like it's just a memory. So what it could possibly be saying is Shakespeare's sort of in our memory, it's not really how we live our lives, and that the fly is now in another language, as in it's only a memory at this point, like the fly is dead and squashed. Then the other thing that stands out to me is in the next line, where it goes, "I breathe out my talent on the glass to write my name." So the first thing in this line that I think needs to be addressed is, what is talent referring to? And I just wrote down these 3 ideas: my breath, my words, my ideas. But I think more the latter too, my words and my ideas. So it's sort of saying, by breathing out, they're sort of breathing out their inspiration, which even uses the same word, spire, Latin. Or is it Greek? I think it's Greek, actually. You know, STEM words. And then the other thing that I think is really important in this is glass to write my name. So if you can just imagine this image where somebody is breathing onto the glass and then writing their name, it sort of adds to the whole individualistic thing, the I'm the most important person in the world idea that I was talking about, by having it be something that seems so permanent and important, like writing your name, trying to be remembered, but in several seconds it'll fade away and it's like it never existed, you know. But at the time it seems so important and like meaningful to make yourself remembered, but it's only lost. Yeah, it fades away. So I thought that really supported the whole theme of the poem in my mind. The next thing I talked about was in line 10, which is, "But today I'm going to change the world." And I saw that as sort of a paradox, because what the speaker is doing is technically changing the world even through the smallest minute detail, you know, sort of like the butterfly effect, but at the same time, it's clear that this person isn't really amounting to anything, at least in society's eyes. And we can sort of get this from line 15, where it says, "Once a fortnight I walk the 2 miles into town for signing on," which I think can be assumed to say that the person, the speaker in this, is living on like welfare checks, so they have to walk every 2 weeks into town so that they can get their check from the government. Usually people on welfare aren't personified as like the most upstanding or brightest intellectuals in society. So the person here probably isn't going to change the world, or at least to a lot of people doesn't seem like they're going to change the world, but they're sort of changing things in their own world by killing. They're becoming, as they say in line 3, they're playing God. You know, even if it's God in the most insignificant way, they're playing God nonetheless. Next thing I thought about was sort of like going with the God train, riding the God train, Jesus train, is the biblical allusion in line 14, which is, "I see that it is good," which is taken from Genesis, the creation story. And in Genesis, the lines are repeated after God creates something. He looks at it and sees that it is good. So it's sort of going with the whole thing that the speaker is creating. They're the god in their own small world. Then we can go back to line 16. They don't appreciate my autograph. This is in reference to the walk to get the welfare check every 2 weeks. I thought it was interesting that Duffy used the word autograph instead of name or signature or some other word. But I think the reason they use autograph is sort of because because this whole fame theme is being sort of analyzed, like the idea of being famous and like being important. And usually important people, their signatures are referred to as autographs, and people pay thousands of dollars for them. It's going in that whole line, like sort of keeping within the theme of the theme. So finally we get to the final stanza where the speaker is saying that there is nothing left to kill. They call a radio station and they tell the DJ that they're talking to a superstar, which is a great way to start a conversation. I would strongly recommend it. If you ever meet someone, make sure they know how great you are. I see these lines sort of like a desperation, because it starts off with that there's nothing left to kill, which sort of makes it seem like they're sort of losing that high of having power, over something, and that they're starting to crash, sort of, and that they need to like keep going. They need to keep having people realize how great they are. So they think the best way to do this is actually go into a public space and announce their greatness. But then the DJ sort of brings the speaker back down to earth by cutting them off. The speaker responds by taking a bread knife, going outside. We know that there's a glitter, which I think as I've said before, we can assume is blood. And it says they touch. Now, this is important. They don't touch an arm, or they don't touch their arm. They touch your arm. They touch your arm. So I think what that's sort of saying is it's not just a problem that other people face, it's a problem that we all face, and that we all have to sort of be part of the solution for fame, because we sort of build up fame. Fame doesn't exist without us. We give it the power. So without our help, this situation wouldn't have to exist, where a person needs to feel wanted and needs to feel that they're important to live their life. Chances are not everybody's gonna like you, so I feel like that could sort of be what Duffy is trying to get at through this whole poem. Or maybe that's just what I think Duffy is trying to get at, because I'm trying to push my own agenda. But anyway, thanks for listening to me, thanks for watching. I feel like I should now say, if you liked the video, click on something. And if you really liked it, why don't you subscribe and watch some other videos. Oh, also, you can go to my Indiegogo page and you can donate. I'm trying to get to my goal of $2.5 billion. I've already reached my first goal of $100, and it's only taken like 2 months. So, I mean, we're almost there. Thanks.